taking away from the next person, right? So when we're calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the greatest deed that we can give a person, right? It's worth more than $1 million. It's worth more than a job or a BMW or a Mercedes or these things, right? It is something that's going to last a lifetime in the grave and in the hereafter, right? So it's going to last an eternity. So the message that you give about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lasts eternity, for an eternity. You can actually make a postcard out of it, from Hallmark or something, and actually say that on it. The lasting message is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Just to say something in people's hearts. Like, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the first technique that He uses with us is He shows us the carrot, right? He gives us the reward. What are the benefits of giving dawah? By Allah, and Bukhari and Muslim, Prophet says, by Allah, if Allah were to guide one man through you, it would be better for you than the best type of wells. In the Surah Al-Rum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and you cannot guide the blind from their straying. You make them hear only those who believe in the ayats, signs, and verses, and have submitted to Islam as Muslims. I can't even explain to you how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the person who calls them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He were to list everything in paradise, it would be limitless. And that is the reward of the da'ah, of the da'ah, right? Is that the list of rewards is just limitless. It's countless, right? Because when you give a message of Islam to people, it's something that lasts for generations and generations and generations, and more and more and more rewards. So it can't be a set limit, right? If, for example, if somebody were to die in the battlefield in jihad or something, you have a set rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says for that individual, right? Because of the action that he did. But when it comes to da'wah, because it can go for generations, a long period of time, and groups and groups of people can be affected, there's not a specific reward for it. Rather, all of paradise is open for it. This ayah here was set in to give us a realization that what we say is not really what guides people. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides individuals. Will go into the different types of hidayahs and talks. Right? But you have to keep that in mind. Okay, you have to keep in mind that whatever you're doing, it's going to be also, there's two parties, right? There's your party that's going to be giving the message, and also the persons who are listening to it. The second portion of this is ayats, proofs, evidence, verses, and signs. We don't have to necessarily bring all the different verses from the Bible and the Quran in order to prove or disprove, ideology. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the eyes and ears to look at the signs that we have all around us. A key part of giving dawah is being able to relay your message in the most simplest fashion, right? In the simplest fashion, with the person, the individual, having a clear understanding of what you're trying to say, right? And sometimes when you use analogies and metaphors and these things, and things that you see around you, they always help you in your dawah. Okay? So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our ayats. It's not necessarily verses from the Quran, but it's talking about everything. Right? You can talk to an individual and say, you know what? Look at how the bird is made. You just show them a bird. And how perfect it is, and how it's so small, and yet it has so many different life parts or whatever. Then, that gives you an idea. That you can say, oh wow, you're right. It gets them to be awakened, right? One of the things that we use with regards to the signs that are around us is the fact that we have life and death, right? That we have youth and being elderly, right? We have all these different things and knowledge that you can bring from the different things around us. And that's not by chance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made those things for a certain reason. Okay? So use those things in your da'wah and try to be, you don't have to be philosophical, right? But you just, give a little example of an animal or a plant, and you see the success that you have in your da'wah. Okay. How many people here have actually given da'wah before to non-Muslims? We're not talking about to Muslims, we're talking about to non-Muslims. Raise your hand. How many people have given da'wah? 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'm going to call on you guys to challenge with some questions and stuff, so you guys can give me some answers. Come on. You guys ready? Is one you ready? Okay, sorry. 2 types of hidayah. The first hidayah is hidayah to Irshad, the second is hidayah to Tawfiq. Okay? If you don't establish these types of 2 hidayahs in your mind, then you can fall into arrogance or you fall into depression. Right? You fall into arrogance or depression. Hidayah to Irshad is our duty, and meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that our duty is to call people to Islam. Right? That's our duty. That's our job. That's our task. Okay? And if we don't understand that this is our job and we're doing the task, right? And then we're going to fall into, passive, and we're going to have time passing by, right? We have all these different things. And also the second type of that is to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides. Right? We have to have this understanding. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides. And this is where, if we don't have this established, we fall into arrogance or we fall into depression. Right? Our beloved Prophet ﷺ was one of those people who was a human being who fell into one of those traps, right? He fell into depression because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, right, that when the Prophet ﷺ tried to call people to Islam, people were not following at the beginning. People didn't want to follow Islam, right? So he felt that that the way he was giving da'wah was the problem, that was the cause. He felt that the sins that he had accumulated was the reason people were not following Islam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately, when the Prophet felt at his deepest level of depression, he came with the verse of Hidayat al-Tawfiq, right? Came with the verse telling the Prophet that the guidance of Tawfiq that you're giving, right? There's only one of Irshad. That's the only capability that you have. The rest of it is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So as long as you call into the message of Islam, right, then that results from it, or the results or the actions of the individuals also have to do with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, right? So even though the Prophet was calling correctly and people weren't coming to Islam, that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not restoring the hidayah into the hearts of the people that he was calling upon. How do you fall into arrogance? You fall into arrogance when you start doing head counts, right? When you have one person, he comes to your dawah table, and 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a week later, he says, you know what, I'm ready to become Muslim, right? And then you have the next time you're on the dawah booth, then you have another one, and another one, and another one, right? And there's been cases where we've given dawah 25 shahadas, and they're being 3 hours. Or we had 25 people accept Islam individually, right? Not on a group setting, but the people that we asked, that we talked to, right? And they would immediately accept Islam, right? And I'll tell you what I mean, so you really understand how can 25 people become Muslim immediately, right? And that's not even a big number. There have been brothers that I've seen personally, 35, 50 people shahada in one day, right? But if we don't have this established in our hearts, what's going to happen to us? Oh, it's because the way I'm saying this, or what I'm saying, is really catching the hearts of the people, and therefore all these people are coming to Islam. And that's not the case, right? That's not the case at all. Right? And can you imagine if that was the case? Nuh alayhi salam gave da'wah for 950 years, and only a handful of people came to Islam. And yet he was already, in a matter of 3 hours,